ఫేర్వెల్ కంప్లీట్ అవుతుందా
సార్? లేదు సార్,
కంప్లీట్ అవుతుందా?
కాదు సార్, రేపు కూడా అవసరం అవుతుంది సార్.
రేపు సేమ్ టైం చేద్దాం సార్.
సార్
రేపు కూడా సేమ్ టైం ఇట్లాగే పెట్టేద్దామా?
ఇట్లయినా ఏం లేదు, రేపు కొంచెం లేట్గానే ఏం లేదు సార్, రేపు హాలిడేనే ఉంది కదా సార్.
అవునా?
అవునవును సార్.
మీ ఇష్టం సార్, కన్వెంట్ ఒకవేళ కొంచెం లేట్ అంటే లేట్.
రేపు హాలిడేనే సార్. గుడ్ మార్నింగ్ భాస్కర్ సార్.
సార్ గుడ్ మార్నింగ్ సార్.
అశోక్ సార్ మాట్లాడుతున్నాను. సార్ రేపు పబ్లిక్ హాలిడే మనకు కూడా, అందరికి స్టేట్ వైడ్.
రైట్ ఉంది కదా. అవును,
మిలాదున్నబి
సార్. అవునవును.
మనకు కూడా రెగ్యులర్ క్లాస్ అవసరం లేదు కదా పిల్లలు.
రెగ్యులర్ క్లాస్ అవసరం లేదు మనకు కూడా. రేపు నా క్లాస్ కూడా షెడ్యూల్ చేయండి, ఐసోమరైజ్ అని చెప్పేస్తా.
ఓకే, అది ఒకటి. ఇంకా 2-3 ఇంకా ఎక్కువనే ఉన్నాయి, ఒక్కోసారి ప్యాక్ అవుతున్నాయి. స్టార్టింగ్ లోనేమో మనకి ఎక్కువ లేదు.
అది స్టార్టింగ్ లో అంటే బయట వాళ్ళకి అంటే రిసోర్స్ పర్సన్స్ కి అవకాశం ఇద్దాం అనుకున్నాం కాబట్టి మనం డిలే చేసినాం.
పిల్లలు కూడా కొంచెం ఎక్కువనే రెడీ ఉంది ముందు. అంటే పని చేద్దాం, ఇక మార్నింగ్ ఒక 2 hours, ఆఫ్టర్నూన్ ఒక 2 hours, ఈవినింగ్ ఒక 2 hours అట్లా పెట్టేద్దాం.
రేపు ఈవినింగ్ అది షెడ్యూల్ చేయండి, ఈవినింగ్ క్లాస్.
అయితే మార్నింగ్ మరీ లేట్ కాకుండా సార్, అరౌండ్ 8-8:30 అట్లా స్టార్ట్ చేద్దాం సార్.
ఓకే, నన్ను తీసుకోమంటారా సార్?
మీ ఇష్టం సార్.
మార్నింగ్ 8:30కి మీరు తీసుకోండి సార్.
ఓకే సార్.
ఇమీడియట్ గా సార్ 1 hour అయిపోయి ఇంకొకరిని పెడదాం సార్ మార్నింగ్ సెషన్ లో.
ఓకే, నాదైతే ఈవినింగ్ షెడ్యూల్ చేయండి సార్.
రేపు మార్నింగ్ కూడా ఒకరిని పెట్టేద్దాం, మళ్ళీ ఆఫ్టర్నూన్
నాకు 1 hour to 1.5 hour పట్టొచ్చు సార్.
కంప్లీట్ అవుద్దా సార్? భాస్కర్ సార్, రేపు మీది టాపిక్ కంప్లీట్ అవుద్దా?
కంప్లీట్ అవుతుంది సార్.
ఓకే, రేపు ఎట్లాగా హాలిడే కాబట్టి కొంచెం ఎక్కువ టైం అయినా తీసుకొని రేపు టాపిక్
కంప్లీట్ చేసేస్తాం సార్.
ఓకే, మీరు ఏం యూజ్ చేస్తారు సార్? మొబైలా లేకపోతే క్యామ్ యూజ్ చేస్తుందా?
మొబైలే సార్. అదే
బాగా క్లారిటీ ఉంది, పిక్చర్ బాగా క్లారిటీ ఉంది, అందుకని ఏమైనా క్యామ్ యూజ్ చేస్తుంది. బాగా క్లారిటీ ఉంది.
మొబైలే సార్, స్టాండ్ పెట్టేశాను అంతే.
ఓకే, బాగా
అడిషనల్ గా హెడ్ ఫోన్స్ వాడుతున్నట్టున్నారు కదా?
బ్లూటూత్ హెడ్ ఫోన్స్ వాడుతుండ్రు. కాకపోతే సార్ వాయిస్ క్లారిటీ ఉంది, ప్లస్ మీది పిక్చర్ కూడా బాగా క్లారిటీ ఉంది సార్.
అవునవును.
అంటే జనరల్ గా మొబైల్ లో అంత క్లారిటీ ఉండదు, మరి మీరు ఏ మొబైల్
రూమ్ లో నార్మల్ లైటింగ్ సరే, రెగ్యులర్ లైటింగ్ పెట్టారు అంటే
ఈ లైట్ కూడా దీనికి దగ్గరలో పెట్టొచ్చు సార్. లైట్ చాలా దూరంలో పెట్టాలి. లైట్ బోర్డు దగ్గరలో అసలు లైట్ వేయచ్చు సార్. లైట్ వేస్తే మీకు బాగా పడుతుంది సార్. పడుతుంది చూడండి సార్.
ఇప్పుడు బోర్డు కనిపిస్తాడు, మీరు కనిపిస్తారు కానీ బోర్డు కనిపించండి సార్.
అదే సార్, ఇప్పుడు లైట్ బంద్ చేశాను సార్.
సార్ క్లాస్ స్టార్ట్ చేద్దాం సార్. లేట్ అయితే ఆల్రెడీ 50 మెంబర్స్ వచ్చారు.
ఓకే సార్.
ఓకే సార్.
Yesterday we discussed solution concept and the classifications of solutions based on physical state, and one more classification we discussed, classification of solutions based on Raoult's law. So classification of solutions based on Raoult's law we discussed. So Raoult's law is useful to give vapor pressure of liquids in liquids. Okay, this is discussed liquids in liquids. So how to give the vapor pressure of a component I present in the solution. So the expression given by Raoult is Pi is equal to Pi naught into Xi, the mole fraction in the liquid phase. Pi is equal to Pi naught into Xi, the mole fraction in the liquid phase. By comparing Raoult's law and Dalton's law, we can get the mole fraction. We can calculate mole fractions in the vapor phase also. Okay, what is Dalton's law? We have partial vapor pressure of a component I is equal to total vapor pressure into its mole fraction, but this is in the vapor phase. So according to Raoult's law, Pi we can write as Pi naught into Xi in the liquid phase. Total vapor pressure means, okay, sum of the partial vapor pressures of all the components into Xi. So by using this equation, we can calculate the mole fraction in the vapor phase also by comparing Raoult's law and Dalton's law. Okay, and then based on this, we classified the solutions in liquids okay, into two types. If a solution follows Raoult's law, that is called ideal solution. If a solution doesn't follow Raoult's law, that is said to be non-ideal solution. If a solution follows Raoult's law, that is ideal solution. If it doesn't follow Raoult's law at all compositions, that is said to be non-ideal solution. And again, we have non-ideal solutions of two types. Okay, here I am writing. Okay, based on Raoult's law, we have two types: ideal solutions. If Raoult's law is followed, ideal solutions. If Raoult's law is not followed, non-ideal solutions. Again, non-ideal solutions are of two types: showing positive deviation from Raoult's law, showing negative deviation from Raoult's law. Okay. So briefly, I am explaining. So what about if you consider a binary solution of A and B? What about the intermolecular forces in ideal solution? AB is equal to AA is equal to BB. The intermolecular forces will be like this. Okay, polarity or non-polarity of the two liquids must be same. If A is polar, B is also polar. If A is non-polar, B is also non-polar. Polarity or non-polarity of the two liquids is same. Okay. Next, positive deviation. The intermolecular forces present between A and B are weak compared to AA or BB. Weak intermolecular forces we have between A and B compared to pure A and pure B. Okay. Then such solution shows positive deviation. Here, the difference between polarity of the two liquids is small end. Small polarity difference we have. Polarity difference is small. Polarity difference between the two liquids is small. Such liquids shows positive deviation from ideal behavior. Next, here the intermolecular forces between AB are strong compared to AA or BB. And here polarity difference is large. Polarity difference between the two liquids is large. Such solution shows negative deviation from ideal behavior. Okay, as here weak interactions present between A and B, this solution is said to be less stable compared to ideal solution. This solution is less stable compared to ideal solution. Here, as strong intermolecular forces present between A and B, this solution is said to be more stable compared to ideal solution. More stable compared to ideal solution. Next, here the vapor pressure of solution we can give like this according to Dalton's law. Okay, PA plus PB, that means PA naught into XA plus PB naught into XB. PA naught into XA plus PB naught into XB. Okay, this is the vapor pressure of solution. Next, here the vapor pressure of solution is more compared to ideal solution or less compared to ideal solution? More compared to ideal solution. As weak intermolecular forces are there, it can readily evaporate. Rate of evaporation is more, so the vapor pressure of the solution is more compared to ideal solution. That's why it is called positive deviation. And here, as strong intermolecular forces present between A and B, okay, cannot readily undergo evaporation. So the rate of evaporation is less. That's why the vapor pressure shown by this solution is less than that of ideal solution. That's why it is called a negative deviation. And we discussed delta V mix. If you mix 50 ml of, okay, A and B, what we expect 100 ml, same we will get 100 ml. That's why delta V mix is 0. Okay, here if you mix 50 ml and 50 ml of A and 50 ml of B, we get more than 100 ml. Since weak intermolecular forces between A and B, so delta V mix is positive. More than 100 ml we will get. Here less than 100 ml we will get. So delta V mix is equal to negative. You can easily remember positive deviation, positive, negative deviation, negative. So what is the change in volume on mixing? Okay, like this we will get. Similarly, what is the change in enthalpy on mixing? Delta H mix is 0 as equal intermolecular forces are there. As equal intermolecular forces are there, no change in the heat content. No change in the heat content. Okay, so delta H mix is 0. So that means no heat is evolved, no heat is absorbed during mixing A and B liquids. Okay, while we are forming ideal solution, no evolution of heat or no absorption of heat. Here delta H mix is, again you can remember easily, positive deviation we get positive. It is an endothermic process. Energy increases. Okay, energy increases, so stability decreases. Energy increases, stability decreases. Otherwise, the vessel in which we are mixing these two liquids A and B, what happens? The temperature of the vessel decreases. The temperature of the vessel decreases as it takes some heat energy from the surroundings. The temperature of the vessel decreases here. Now here delta H mix is negative. Loss of heat energy takes place. Exothermic process. Loss of heat energy takes place. Exothermic process. Energy decreases, so stability increases here. So whatever the vessel we are mixing the two liquids A and B, the temperature of the vessel increases. Okay, right. These are some of the properties we discussed in the case of ideal solutions. Non-ideal solutions showing positive deviation, non-ideal solutions showing negative deviation, and finally some examples. Okay, are benzene and toluene. Both are non-polar. Benzene and toluene. Next, N-butyl bromide. N-butyl bromide plus N-butyl chloride. N-butyl chloride. Okay, there are some of the examples for ideal solutions. So the examples for non-ideal solutions showing positive deviation. The examples are alcohol plus water, alcohol plus water, alcohol plus chloroform, alcohol plus acetone. So these are some examples for the solution showing positive deviation. Here the polarity difference is small between these two liquids. Next, negative deviation. The examples are water plus HNO3 strong acid we are taking, water plus H2SO4, or water plus HCl, water plus HCl. Okay, so here H3O plus NO3 minus we will get, H3O plus SO4 minus 2 we will get. So strong ion-ion interactions are present. So therefore, the intermolecular forces are strong. Intermolecular forces are strong compared to individual molecules. Okay, these are some examples for ideal solutions. Non-ideal solution showing positive deviation, non-ideal solution showing negative deviation. Okay. Next one, fractional distillation. So fractional distillation is nothing but it is the separation of one liquid from another liquid. If you consider binary solution, separation of one liquid from another liquid. If you consider a binary solution, consider a binary solution, the separation of one liquid from another liquid, that is called fractional distillation by doing continuous heating and cooling, continuous distillation, evaporation and condensation, continuous evaporation and condensation. This is the setup we have for doing fractional distillation. I am sharing a photo. Okay, friends, so this is the setup we have for doing fractional distillation. So here we have a round bottom flask. In that round bottom flask, we have to take solution which we want to do fractional distillation. Okay, from the Bunsen burner, we have to supply the heat energy. Okay, we may use a thermometer to know where the boiling is taking place. And if you see the continuous water we are supplying, see water in and water out, we have condenser in condenser. So there condensation of vapors takes place and we will get a distillate. Okay, we can collect a distillate in the conical flask. So like this we can separate it to liquids and this is okay. This is the setup we have to do fractional distillation. Okay, the column is called fractionating column. Okay, we take RB flask and we supply heat energy. We do boil, we do heating. Then what happens in the liquid? Sorry, in the solution, which one is more volatile? Okay, that readily. Okay, the mixture, the one which is more volatile, that readily undergoes evaporation. And as we are passing water continuously in condenser, the condensation of those vapors takes place, and we can collect distillate. Okay, at conical flask. Okay, like this we can do the separation of one liquid from another liquid. Okay, so whatever the component, for example, if you take A and B, A is more volatile. Let us consider A is more volatile. So A we can get as a distillate, and A we can get as distillate. In the conical flask we can collect A, and B remains in the round bottom flask. B remains in the round bottom flask. That is said to be residue. B is said to be residue. Okay. If A is more volatile, that we can get as a distillate, and B we can get as residue. Like this we can do the separation of A and B. Okay, so in the case of ideal solution, if you plot a graph between vapor pressure versus composition, so composition limits are what? 0 to 1. Okay, for A, for B 1 to 0, for example. Always sum of the mole fractions must be equal to 1. So if you plot a graph between vapor pressure versus composition in the liquid phase as well as in the vapor phase, if you are doing continuous heating, what happens? And continuous heat evaporated. Okay, so continuously the composition in the liquid phase and vapor phase changes. Continuously the composition in the liquid phase and vapor phase changes. So that change, if you observe,
sir,
for example,
sir, at A is equal more volatile ending, sir. Reason?
అలాంటి సబ్స్టాన్స్ తీసుకుంటున్నామండి. అట్లా రీజన్ ఏం లేదు. ఏ అయినా మోర్ వాలటైల్ కావచ్చు, బి అయినా మోర్ వాలటైల్ కావచ్చు. ఓకే, 2 లిక్విడ్స్ ఉన్నాయండి. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఆల్కహాల్, వాటర్ ఉంది. ఓకే, రెండింటి బాయిలింగ్ పాయింట్ సేమ్ ఉండదు కదండి. ద వన్ దూస్ బాయిలింగ్ పాయింట్ ఈస్ లో, దట్ ఈస్ సెడ్ టు బి మోర్ వాలటైల్. ఓకే, which one readily undergoes evaporation? Which one readily undergoes evaporation? That is said to be more volatile. Okay. Now here, for example, A is more volatile, so the vapor pressure shown by A is more compared to B. For example, we are getting like this. This is liquid phase versus composition, vapor phase versus composition. Next, boiling point versus composition. If you take same the mole fraction of A 0 to 1, mole fraction of B 1 to 0. Vapor pressure is more, boiling point is less. Yesterday I explained. So this we will get for vapor pressure, sorry, vapor phase and the liquid phase. This is vapor phase, this is liquid phase. The composition in the vapor phase, the composition in the liquid phase. For example, some particular composition we are taking, and we are starting with this composition. For example, we are starting with this composition and we are doing the fractional distillation. Then what happens, Andy? Okay, this particular composition we are taking and we are doing the fractional distillation. So if you see the composition obtained in the vapor phase after boiling, this is the composition we obtained in the vapor phase. This is the composition obtained in the vapor phase. Now vapor phase, okay, for example, this I am indicating X, this one I am indicating as X1. We are doing the fractional distillation of composition X. And vapor phase we are getting is X1. Now X1 is rich in B or rich in A and okay. X1 is rich in B. Okay. Okay, X1 is rich in B. So like this, what happens if you do the continuous distillation and condensation? So one component we will get excess in the distillation flask, and another component remains in the round bottom flask as residue. Like this, we can separate it. Okay. So you just remember these plots. Okay. This is in the case of ideal solutions we get it. In the case of ideal solutions, we get the plots like this: vapor pressure versus composition and boiling point versus composition. Now, if you go to non-ideal solutions, the formation of azeotropic mixture is observed. The formation of azeotropic mixture. In the case of non-ideal solutions, the formation of azeotropic mixture is observed. This is important. So what is azeotropic mixture? Okay, if you see in the previous case, if you take A and B, if A is more volatile, okay, then while we are doing boiling, heating, so whatever the vapor phase we are getting, in that vapor phase, what is the composition we are getting? And as A is more volatile, A is rich. Okay, we get A, the mole fraction of A is more compared to B. Like this we are getting while we are doing boiling or while we are being heating. And if you do the fractional distillation, this is the situation we have. Okay, if you take a binary solution of A and B where A is more volatile or the boiling points of A and B are different. Okay, now if you do the boiling or heating or fractional distillation, so in the vapor phase, which one we are getting rich? A we will get rich. But in the case of azeotropic mixture, if you take, let us consider A and B forms azeotropic mixture. Okay, AB. Okay, that let us consider that I am taking azeotropic mixture forms an azeotropic mixture at a particular composition. Let us consider A and B forms at a particular composition azeotropic mixture. So the azeotropic mixture is the one for which the composition in the liquid phase and vapor phase both are same. What is azeotropic mixture? The composition in the liquid phase and vapor phase are same. Previously, we cannot get same composition in the vapor phase. In the vapor phase, A is rich, A is more, B is less. But here, what happens? The composition in the liquid phase and vapor phase are same. As composition in the liquid phase and vapor phase are same, if you start with azeotropic mixture and if you do the fractional distillation, okay, if you do the fractional distillation of azeotropic mixture, what happens? If you do the fractional distillation of azeotropic mixture, it distills completely. It distills completely like a pure substance. A pure substance without change in the composition. Without change in the composition at a given temperature. Such mixture is called azeotropic mixture. So the azeotropic mixture is nothing but for which the composition in the liquid phase and vapor phase are same. As composition in the liquid phase and vapor phase are same, if you do the fractional distillation, what happens? That entire, for example, A is in the liquid phase, for example, A is 40%, we have, B is 60%, we have. A is 40%, B is 60% we have. In the vapor phase also, what we will get? The vapor phase also, A 40% we get and B 60% we will get. Simultaneously, both A and B undergoes evaporation. Okay, so it distills completely like a pure substance. Complete distillation is taking place. Here 40-60%, we are also getting 40-60%. So complete distillation takes place without change in the composition, no change in the composition at a given temperature. Such mixture is called as azeotropic mixture. Now, is it possible to separate A and B at this composition? No, not possible to separate A and B at this composition. Why it is not possible to separate? And since if you do the fractional distillation, what happens? Both will undergo evaporation simultaneously. That's why it is not possible to separate A and B. Not possible to separate A and B if you start with azeotropic mixture. Okay, this is the concept of azeotropic mixture. So in the previous case, we may not get more same composition in the vapor phase, but here what we are getting? We are starting with which composition? The same composition we will get in the vapor phase also. Okay, that means no change in the composition. Such mixture is called azeotropic mixture, and such mixture is not possible to separate. Again, this is of two types. Azeotropic mixture is of two types. Is of two types. The first one is low boiling azeotropic mixture. Low boiling azeotropic mixture. Next one, high boiling azeotropic mixture. Low boiling azeotropic mixture. This is observed in the case of non-ideal solutions showing positive deviation from Raoult's law. This is observed in the case of non-ideal solutions showing positive deviation from Raoult's law. So in the case of non-ideal solutions showing positive deviation from Raoult's law, if you plot a graph between vapor pressure versus composition, if you plot a graph between vapor pressure versus composition for liquid phase and the vapor phase, okay, we will get a graph like this. If you plot a graph between vapor pressure versus composition for both liquid phase and vapor phase. This is in the liquid phase, this is the liquid phase, vapor phase, vapor phase. Particularly if you concentrate on this composition, okay, that composition I am indicating as C, for example. At composition C, if you observe, at composition C, what we are observing, and both the liquid phase and the vapor phase composition is same. At composition C, the composition of liquid phase is equal to vapor phase. Both are intersecting at that point. Liquid phase has C composition and vapor phase also has a C composition. So therefore, if you do the fractional distillation, what will get done? It distills over completely without any change in the composition. So therefore, this composition is corresponding to what? Azeotropic mixture. This composition is corresponds to azeotropic mixture. Okay. Now, if you see the boiling point versus composition, that is vapor pressure versus composition. Now, boiling point versus composition. Higher is the vapor pressure, lower is the boiling point. So we will get a graph like this. Okay, this is boiling point versus composition. This is for vapor phase. This is for vapor phase, and this is for liquid phase. Okay, same C composition. Now here, which composition possesses least minimum boiling point? This composition possesses minimum boiling point. Okay, that's why this mixture is called minimum boiling azeotropic, not low. This is minimum, sorry, minimum boiling azeotropic mixture. This is called minimum boiling azeotropic mixture. Okay, as boiling point is minimum at that composition, this is called as minimum boiling azeotropic mixture. Okay. The example is, for example, water and alcohol, ethyl alcohol. For example, if you consider water and ethyl alcohol forms this azeotropic mixture at 95% of alcohol by volume. At 95% of alcohol by volume, it forms an azeotropic mixture. So after reaching 95% of alcohol by volume, it forms an azeotropic mixture. So therefore, after reaching this composition, is it possible to separate alcohol and water? Not possible to separate alcohol and water. Second one, maximum boiling azeotropic. Maximum boiling azeotropic. Maximum boiling azeotropic mixture. And this is observed in the case of non-ideal solutions showing negative deviation. Non-ideal solutions showing negative deviation from Raoult's law. Okay, so same, if you plot a graph between vapor pressure versus composition, you plot a graph between vapor pressure versus composition, okay, we will get a plot like this. Okay, once again, if you concentrate at composition C, what we are getting at? Both vapor phase and liquid phase are intersecting. Both vapor phase and liquid phase are intersecting at composition C. Both have same composition. Therefore, C corresponds to what? Azeotropic mixture. Azeotropic mixture. The another name to azeotropic mixture is constant boiling mixture. Constant boiling mixture. It is also called as constant boiling mixture. Azeotropic mixture or constant boiling mixture. Okay, this is vapor pressure versus composition. Now, if you see boiling point versus composition. Boiling point versus composition. If you see at composition C, vapor pressure is minimum. Vapor pressure is minimum means boiling point is maximum. Vapor pressure is minimum, so boiling point we get maximum at the composition. We get boiling point maximum at that composition. That's why it is called maximum boiling azeotropic mixture. That's why it is called maximum boiling azeotropic mixture. So this is observed in the solutions showing negative deviation. The example for solution showing negative deviation. For example, HNO3 plus water. HNO3 plus water. Strong ion-ion interactions are present. That's why we get negative deviation from ideal behavior. HNO3 plus water. So if you see, HNO3 forms an azeotropic mixture at 68% of HNO3 and 32% of water by mass. Previously by volume, 95 ml of alcohol, 5 ml of water. Here 68 grams of HNO3, 32 grams of water by mass. So at that composition, it forms an azeotropic mixture. At that composition, this solution possesses maximum boiling azeotropic mixture. Okay, it possesses maximum boiling point and at this composition. Okay. This is fractional distillation concept that we discussed in the case of ideal solutions and non-ideal solutions. So mainly you concentrate on azeotropic mixture. Okay, solutions showing positive deviation possess minimum boiling azeotropic mixture. Solution showing negative deviation possess maximum boiling azeotropic mixture. Okay. Azeotropic mixture means simply the liquid phase composition and vapor phase composition both are same. As liquid phase and vapor phase composition are same, if you do the fractional distillation, simultaneously both undergoes evaporation, so it is not possible to separate those two liquids. Okay. Right. Okay. Next, I am going to colligative properties. Colligative properties. So what are colligative properties? These colligative properties are the properties of dilute solutions. These are the properties of dilute solutions. Dilute solutions means where the solvent mole fraction is high and the solute mole fraction is very low. Solute composition is very low. Okay, dilute solutions where the solvent composition is high, solute composition is low. Almost if you consider solvent as A, solute as B, almost solvent mole fraction tends to 1 and almost solute mole fraction tends to 0. Okay, these are the properties shown by dilute solutions where the mole fraction of solvent approaches 1, nearly 1, and the mole fraction of solute nearly 0. Very, very dilute solution we are considering. Okay, almost pure solvent. Okay. 1 liter water we are taking, like 1 liter water this one koncham sugar add chestunadi, for example, koncham sugar, that is it to be dilute solution. Okay. Now in this case, these are the properties shown by dilute solutions where solute is non-volatile, where we take solute non-volatile and solvent volatile. Solvent readily undergoes evaporation. Solute cannot undergo evaporation. The vapor pressure shown by solute is negligible. The vapor pressure shown by solution is negligible or zero, as it is non-volatile. Okay, the vapor pressure shown by solute is negligible or zero, and the vapor pressure shown by solvent is considerable. Okay. Now, if you take a dilute solution having non-volatile solute and volatile solvent, it is observed that some of the properties, those are called colligative properties. Colligative properties depends only on number of solute particles. Colligative properties depends on number of solute particles only, but not depends on nature of solute particles. So it is observed that for these solutions, for this type of solutions, colligative properties depends on number of solute particles, but not depends on nature of solute particles. For example, we have 1 liter solution. In that we have 100 K plus ions, for example, 100 Cl minus ions. Okay, the same 1 liter solution we have. I'm taking same 1 liter solution. I'm taking in this 100 Na plus ions we have, 100 Cl minus ions we have, 100 Na plus and 100 Cl minus ions we have. Here how many particles are there? 200 particles we have. Here totally 200 particles we have. Here also how many particles are there? 200 particles are there. But here potassium ions we have, here sodium ions we have. But if you calculate, if you measure colligative property in both the cases, we will get same. Since colligative property not depends on the nature of solute, colligative property not depends on nature of solute, but it depends only on the number of solute particles. Here we have 200 particles, here also we have 200 particles. So colligative property in both the cases will get same. Okay, but the colligative property depends on nature of solvent. Colligative property depends on nature of solvent. It depends on nature of solvent. Since in some of the solvents, solutes may undergo association or dissociation. Okay, so that depends on the nature of solvent. So in some solvents, solute may undergo dissociation. In some solvents, solute may undergo association. So whenever the solute undergo dissociation or association, what happens? The number of particles changes. Whenever number of particles changes, colligative property also changes. So colligative properties depends on the nature of solvent, but not depends on the nature of solute, and it depends on number of solute particles. Okay, this we'll discuss in detail in the next class, dissociation and association concept. Okay, this is a small introduction to colligative properties. Okay, these are the properties shown by dilute solutions in which solute is non-volatile and the solvent is volatile. As solute is non-volatile, it cannot readily undergo evaporation, so the vapor pressure shown by solute is almost zero. Okay, and it is observed that colligative properties depends on number of solute particles only, but not nature of solute particles, and also depends on the nature of solvent. Since in some solvents the solute may undergo association or dissociation, whenever it undergoes association or dissociation, the number of particles changes, so colligative properties also changes. Okay, we have 4 colligative properties in our syllabus. We have 4 colligative properties. Those are relative lowering of vapor pressure, relative lowering of vapor pressure of solvent, second one, elevation in the boiling point, elevation in the boiling point of solvent, third one, depression in the freezing point, depression in the freezing point, and last one, osmotic pressure, So these are the 4 colligative properties we have. Relative lowering of vapor pressure of solvent, elevation in the boiling point of solvent, depression in freezing point of solvent, and osmotic pressure. Relative lowering of vapor pressure, elevation in the boiling point, depression in the freezing point, and osmotic pressure. Okay, we will discuss these 4 briefly. Okay. Okay, first one. In that first one, relative lowering of vapor pressure of solvent. So, for example, I am taking a pure solvent. I am taking a pure solvent A, for example. Pure solvent means what about its mole fraction? Mole fraction is 1. 100% A we have, so its mole fraction is 1. To that we are adding a non-volatile solute, for example B. We are adding non-volatile solute B. Okay, small amount of B we are adding. So we are preparing a solution. Small amount of B we are adding. Okay, and we are preparing a solution. Let us consider the vapor pressure shown by pure A. The vapor pressure shown by pure A as P0, and the vapor pressure shown by solution as PS. The vapor pressure shown by solution as PS. Now, if you compare the vapor pressure before adding non-volatile solute and after adding non-volatile solute, what happens? The vapor pressure decreases. That is called lowering of vapor pressure. That is called what? Lowering of vapor pressure. So, what is lowering of vapor pressure? The decrease in vapor pressure. The decrease in vapor pressure of solvent. The decrease in vapor pressure of solvent by adding non-volatile solute. By adding non-volatile solute to a pure solvent is called what? Lowering of vapor pressure. The decrease in vapor pressure of solvent by adding non-volatile solute to a pure solvent. That is called lowering of vapor pressure, which is indicated by delta P. So delta P is equal to what? P0 minus PS. Lowering of vapor pressure is equal to, here P0 is more or PS is more? P0 is more compared to PS. P0 is greater than PS. So what is the decrease? And P0 minus PS amount of vapor pressure is decreasing. Now the next question is why the vapor pressure is decreasing after adding non-volatile solute. Why the vapor pressure is decreasing after adding non-volatile solute. So if you see in the case of pure solvent, at the surface what, which molecules we have? Only A molecules we have. At the surface we have only A molecules, but after adding non-volatile solute B, some of the positions of A are replaced by B. Some of the positions of A are replaced by B. But B undergoes evaporation or not undergoes evaporation. It is a non-volatile solute. It is a non-volatile solute. So therefore, whenever some A particles are replaced by B particles at the surface, some of A particles are replaced by B particles at the surface, what happens is the rate of evaporation decreases. As the number of particles, A particles at surface decreases. As the number of A particles at the surface decreases, so rate of evaporation decreases. Whenever rate of evaporation decreases, vapor pressure also decreases. This is one of the reasons we have why the vapor pressure is decreasing. Escaping tendency decreases. Okay, escaping tendency decreases. Previously, it escapes into vapor phase readily. Escaping tendency decreases, so rate of evaporation decreases, so vapor pressure decreases. Another explanation is given by Graham's law. Another reason is given by Graham's law. According to Graham's law, rate of evaporation is inversely proportional to density, square root of density. According to Graham's law.
ఎవరిదైతుంది కాసేపు కూర్చో టీ తాగుతూ పర్లేదు కూర్చో
According to Graham's law, rate of evaporation is inversely proportional to square root of density. So while we are adding non-volatile solute to pure solvent, what happens to density? Increases. While we are adding non-volatile solute to pure solvent, density increases, so rate of evaporation decreases. As density increases, rate of evaporation decreases. That's why vapor pressure decreases. This is another explanation given by Graham's law. As density increases, rate of evaporation decreases. Okay. Now, if you see the solution vapor pressure, the solution vapor pressure is proportional to what? The solution vapor pressure is proportional to the mole fraction of solvent present in the solution, and not on B. Since the vapor pressure shown by B is 0, as the vapor pressure shown by B is 0, the vapor pressure shown by solution is proportional to what? The mole fraction of A only, not depends on B. Okay. Now PS, if you remove the proportionality, we will get P naught. So P naught into XA. Okay, as in the solution, only A undergoes evaporation. So the vapor pressure of solution depends only on the mole fraction of A in the solution. If you remove the proportionality, we will get P naught, the vapor pressure of pure solvent, the vapor pressure of pure solvent. That if you substitute here, delta P is equal to P naught minus PS, we can write as P naught into XA. So delta P is equal to P naught is common, 1 minus XA. What is sum of the mole fractions of A and B, and always sum of the mole fractions of A and B is equal to 1. So 1 minus
XB,
XA
sir.
we can write as
XB.
yes. So 1 minus XA we can write XB. So delta P by P naught. So finally we are getting delta P by P naught is equal to XB. Delta P by P naught we are getting XB. Okay, so whenever we are adding non-volatile solutes, some of the positions of A are occupied by B, so escaping tendency increases, rate of evaporation increases. That we can also explain by Graham's law. As rate of evaporation increases, vapor pressure decreases. So P0 is greater than PS. That difference is called a lowering of vapor pressure. Here delta P indicates lowering of vapor pressure. And in the even in the solution, only A undergoes evaporation. So solution vapor pressure is directly proportional to mole fraction of A. If you remove the proportionality, we'll get P0 that we substitute here. Okay. Finally, we got delta P by P0 is equal to XB. Or we can write this one like this. P0 minus PS. Delta P is nothing but P0 minus PS by P0, that is equal to XB. So this P0 minus PS by P0, this quantity is called as relative lowering of vapor pressure. This is called as relative lowering of vapor pressure. That is called as relative lowering of vapor pressure. So compared to pure solvent, how much lowering of vapor pressure is observing? That's why it is called relative lowering of vapor pressure. Compared to pure solvent vapor pressure we are giving. Compared to pure solvent vapor pressure we are giving. That's why it is called relative lowering of vapor pressure.
Sure.
So one of the important applications of colligative properties is colligative properties are useful to determine molar mass of solute. So how to determine the molar mass of solute? By using relative lowering of vapor pressure. Molar mass of solute. By using relative lowering of vapor pressure. So the formula for relative lowering of vapor pressure is, it is one of the colligative properties we have, relative lowering of vapor pressure. Okay, it depends on mole fraction of solute only. B means solute only, not on mole fraction of solvent. Okay, number of solute particles only. Okay. So P0 minus PS by P0 is equal to XB we have. So P0 minus PS by P0 is equal. So mole fraction of B we can write as what? Number of moles of B by number of moles of A plus number of moles of B. Number of moles of a component by total number of moles. But we are taking a dilute solution. We are taking very dilute solution. So the number of moles of B is neglected compared to number of moles of A. As we are taking dilute solution, so NB is neglected. NB is neglected compared to Na. NB is neglected compared to Na. So this equation further simplified like this. P0 minus PS by P0 is equal NB by NB is neglected compared to Na. So in the denominator we can neglect NB. So NB by Na we are getting. We want to calculate molar mass. So P0 minus PS by P0 is equal number of moles. Okay, number of moles is equal to what we have? Mass by molar mass, weight by molar mass. So weight of solute by molar mass of solute into, here we have 1 by Na, so reverse will get molar mass of A by weight of A. By using this equation, we can calculate molar mass of solution. So if you know the relative lowering of vapor pressure, the colligative property is known to us. We can calculate molar mass of solute by using this equation. Okay. So you remember this equation: P0 minus Ps by P0 is equal to weight of solute by molecular weight of solute into molecular weight of solvent by weight of solvent.
Sir, repeat please. ఒకసారి మళ్ళీ రిపీట్ చేయరా సార్ అర్థం కాలే.
Okay. So one of the applications of colligative properties is we can determine molar mass by using colligative properties. Okay. Now I am giving how to determine molar mass of solute. If you know the relative lowering of vapor pressure, the colligative property is known to us. How to calculate molar mass of B solute. So this is the expression we have for relative lowering of vapor pressure. P0 minus Ps by P0 is equal to XB. Mole fraction and number of moles of component by total number of moles. Mole fraction means number of moles of a component by total number of moles. But we are taking which solution? Dilute solution. Dilute solution means very small quantity of B is present. As the number of moles of B is small, so we can neglect number of moles of B compared to number of moles of A. So this is neglected. We are neglecting number of moles of B compared to number of moles of A. So NB by NA we are getting. Number of moles. Number of moles is equal to what we have? Weight by molecular weight or molar mass. Number of moles formula is weight by molecular weight. So number of moles of B means weight of B by molecular weight of B into 1 by Na we have. Reverse. Molecular weight by weight we will get. So molecular weight of A by weight of A. So by using this equation, we can calculate molecular weight of solute B, molar mass of B. Okay.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, here B means solute and A means solvent.
Yes. B means solute.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. So next one, the second colligative property, that is elevation in the boiling point. Elevation in the boiling point. Now once again, I am taking a pure solvent. Pure solvent A. To that we are adding non-volatile solute B. Okay, here I indicated solvent A, solute B. Okay, and we are preparing some solution. Okay, so let us consider the boiling point of pure solvent as TB naught. The boiling point of pure solvent as TB naught. In some of the books, it is given T naught. Okay, now P naught is not P naught. T naught. Okay, so the boiling point of pure solvent TB naught or T naught. Okay, and boiling point of the solution. Okay, I am indicating as TS. Boiling point of the solution I am indicating as TS. There is a TB and indicated here. Now boiling point of solution is indicated as TB or TS. Now what happens in elevation? The name itself indicates elevation in the boiling point of solvent. After adding non-volatile solute to pure solvent, what happens to boiling point? And increases or decreases? Elevation means increases. The boiling point increases. That increase in the boiling point after adding non-volatile solute to pure solvent, that is called elevation in the boiling point. Okay, that is represented by delta TBN. So boiling point is increasing. So TS is greater than T naught. TS is greater than T naught, or we can write TB is greater than TB naught. Okay, boiling point increases, elevates. That means increases after adding non-volatile solute. So TS we get greater than T naught, or TB we get greater than TB naught. That difference delta TB is equal to TB minus TB naught, or we can write delta TB is equal to TS minus T naught. So this is called delta TB is called what? Elevation in the boiling point. Elevation in the boiling point. So how can you define elevation in the boiling point? Elevation in the boiling point is the increase in boiling point. The increase in boiling point by adding a non-volatile solute to pure solvent. It's called elevation in the boiling point. The increase in boiling point by adding a non-volatile solute to pure solvent. The increase in boiling point by adding a non-volatile solute to pure solvent is called elevation in the boiling point. Why boiling point is increasing? And after adding non-volatile solute, what happens to vapor pressure? Decreases. Okay, already we discussed. Lower is the vapor pressure, higher is the boiling point. Okay, as vapor pressure is decreasing, boiling point increases. Vapor pressure is decreasing, so boiling point increases. Okay, this is the concept of elevation in the boiling point. Next, it is observed that the elevation in the boiling point delta TB is proportional to molality of solute. Small m we are indicating. Small m indicates what? Molality. Capital M indicates molarity. Small m indicates molality. Molality of solute. It is observed that elevation in the boiling point is directly proportional to the molality of solute. The concentration of solute. If you add more amount of solute, more increase in the boiling point is observed. If you add more amount of solute, more increase in the boiling point is observed. Since more decrease in the vapor pressure is observed. If you add more amount of solute, more decrease in the vapor pressure is observed. So more increase in the boiling point is observed. So elevation in the boiling point is directly proportional to the molality of solute. If you remove the proportionality, we will get a constant that is indicated by Kb. We will get a constant that is indicated by Kb. So where Kb is called as boiling point elevation constant. Boiling point elevation constant. Boiling point elevation constant or molal elevation constant. Molal elevation constant. Molal elevation constant or ebullioscopic constant. Ebullioscopic constant. So Kb is called as boiling point elevation constant or molar elevation constant or ebullioscopic constant. Now how to calculate Kb? Okay, you just remember the formula.
Sir, can you explain once again?
So while we are adding non-volatile solute, what happens? The boiling point is increasing. Why boiling point is increasing? Vapor pressure is decreasing. As vapor pressure decreases, boiling point increases. Okay, that increase in the boiling point by adding non-volatile solute to pure solvent is called elevation in the boiling point. That is nothing but TB minus TB naught or PS minus T naught. And this elevation in the boiling point is directly proportional to molality of the solid, concentration of the solute. Here we are expressing molality. Okay. Delta TB is equal, if you remove the proportionality, we will get a constant Kb that is called as boiling point elevation constant or molar elevation constant or ebullioscopic constant. Okay, now how to calculate Kbn? So the formula for Kb, just you remember, the formula for Kb is RT naught square m by 1000 into delta HVN. Kb formula RT naught square m by 1000 into delta HV. So here R is gas constant, T naught is the boiling point of pure solvent. T naught is the boiling point of pure solvent. M is molar mass of solvent. M is molar mass of solvent. Delta HV is molar heat of vaporization. Molar heat of vaporization, I think you got in thermodynamics. Molar heat of vaporization. That is nothing but the amount of heat required to convert 1 mole of liquid to vapor at its boiling point. The amount of heat required to convert 1 mole of liquid to vapor at its boiling point. That is called molar heat of vaporization. So if you see various terms involved in the KB, all these terms are corresponding to water solvent. The various terms involved in the KB are corresponding to solvent. That means KB depends on nature of solvent. KB depends on nature of solvent. That's why we discussed elevation. Colligative properties depends on nature of solvent, but not nature of solute. Colligative properties depends on nature of solvent, but not nature of solute. See here, KB depends on nature of solvent. Particularly if you take water, if solvent is water, if you consider specially solvent water, okay, if you substitute all the parameters corresponding to water, water boiling point 100 degrees centigrade, that means 373 Kelvin, molar mass of water 18 grams, delta Hp 9720, you get R value 2 calories. If you substitute all those values, you get Kb value 0.52. You get Kb value 0.52. What is the unit for Kb and unit for Kb? No, sir, unit for Kb. Here Kb is equal to what we have? Delta Tb by m. Delta Tb by m. Elevation in the boiling point Kelvin. Okay, elevation in the boiling point Kelvin. K by molarity units in moles per kg. Moles per kg. The number of moles of solute present in 1 kg of solvent. The number of moles of solute present in 1 kg of solvent is called molality. So delta Tb ki Kelvin and molality ki moles per kg. So if you bring this to numerator, we get Kelvin kg mole inverse. Kelvin kg mole inverse. That is the unit for K. Kelvin kg per mole. Okay, so you remember this value. If solvent is specially water, the Kb value, molar elevation constant value is 0.52 Kelvin kg per mole. Okay, next already we discussed one of the important applications of colligative properties is to determine molar mass of solute. Now how to determine molar mass of solute? By using elevation in the boiling point concept, molar mass of solute. We have here delta Tb is equal to Kb into m. What is the formula for molality and number of moles of solute present in kg of 1 kg of solvent. Okay, that is weight of solvent in kgs. Number of moles of solute by weight of solvent in kgs. Number of moles means we can write weight by, okay, weight of solute by molar mass of solute. Okay, weight of solute by molar mass of solute into, if you convert this into grams, we will get into 1000 by weight of solvent in grams. Okay, this is the formula we have. This is weight of solutant. This is weight of solute by molar mass of solute. Molality is nothing but what? Number of moles of solute present in 1 kg of solvent. Number of moles of solute present in 1 kg of solvent is called molality. Number of moles means weight by molar mass into 1000 by weight of solvent in kgs. So that if you substitute here, delta Tb is equal to Kb into m. M means weight of solute. Solute means in this case we indicated solute by B and so B, weight of solute B by molecular weight of solute, that is B, into 1000 by weight of solvent. Solvent we indicated with A in grams. So by using this equation, we can calculate molar mass of solute MBN. If delta Tb is known to us, Kb is known to us. If it is given water, if it is water, it is 0.52. Okay. Right. So this is the concept of elevation in the boiling point and its application, that is determination of molar mass by using elevation in the boiling point. And one more colligative property we'll discuss. Third one is depression in the freezing point. Same untudandi. Depression in the freezing point. Depression in the freezing point. Once again, I am taking pure solvent A, pure solvent A. To that we are adding a small amount of non-volatile solute B, and we are preparing a dilute solution. We are preparing a solution, okay? In each case, we are following same. So, taking pure solvent, we are adding non-volatile solute. We are preparing solution. Now, let us consider the freezing point in the case of pure solvent as T naught, or in some of the books it is represented like this, TF naught. Freezing point in the case of pure solvent, T naught or TF naught, and the freezing point of the solution after adding non-volatile solute, we may represent as TS or TF. Okay. Now what happens and after adding non-volatile solute, freezing point is decreasing or increasing? Depression another. Depression means decreases. Okay, after adding non-volatile solute, the freezing point decreases. That means T naught is greater than TS. T naught is greater than TS. Okay, or TF naught is greater than TF. TF naught is greater than TF. So the decrease in the freezing point is called depression in the freezing point. Delta TF is equal to T naught minus TS we can write, or delta TF is equal to TF naught minus TF. Okay. This is called what? Depression in freezing point. That is called delta TF is called the depression in freezing point. How can you define depression in freezing point? The decrease in freezing point. The decrease in freezing point by adding a non-volatile solute. By adding a non-volatile solute to a pure solvent. To a pure solvent. The decrease in the freezing point by adding a non-volatile solute to a pure solvent is called depression in the freezing point. Okay, it is nothing but T naught minus TS, where T naught is freezing point of pure solvent. Freezing point of pure solvent. TS is the freezing point of solution. T naught is the freezing point of pure solvent. TS is the freezing point of solution. Okay. And similarly, it is observed that further we have similar to elevation in the boiling point. Delta TF is directly proportional to the molality of solute. It is observed that depression in the freezing point is directly proportional to the concentration of solute. If you add more amount of non-volatile solute, more decrease in the freezing point is observed. So delta TF is directly proportional to M. So if you remove the proportionality, we will get a constant that is indicated with Kf. So where Kf is called as freezing point depression constant, freezing point depression constant, or molar depression constant, molar depression constant, or cryoscopic constant. Okay, so here Kf is called freezing point depression constant, or molar depression constant, or cryoscopic constant. And if you see the formula for Kf, what is the unit for Kf? Same. Unit for Kf, if you see, Kf is equal to what we have, delta Tf by M, delta Tf unit K by M unit mole per kg. So if you bring that to numerator, Kelvin kg per mole. Same unit, both Kf and Kb have same units, Kelvin kg per mole. And the formula for Kf, if you see, Kf RT naught square M by same 1000 delta HF1. Same similar type of formula we have. There delta HV we have. Okay, boiling point means liquid phase converts to vapor phase. Here freezing point means solid phase converts to liquid phase. Solid phase and liquid phase we have to consider. Okay. Now here T naught is nothing but freezing point of pure solvent. Freezing point of pure solvent. M is the molar mass of solvent. Freezing point of pure solvent. M is the molar mass of solvent. Delta HF. Previously delta HV means molar heat of vaporization. This is molar heat of fusion. molar heat of fission. So this is the amount of heat required to convert 1 mole of solid to liquid at its freezing point. It is the amount of heat required to convert 1 mole of solid to liquid at its freezing point. So these are the various terms involved in the expression for Kf. So all these terms are corresponding to what? Solvent. All these terms corresponding to solvent. So Kf depends on nature of solvent. Kf depends on nature of solvent. Kf depends on nature of solvent. So especially if you take solvent water, if you consider solvent water, and if you substitute the water freezing point 0 degrees centigrade, water molar mass 18, all those parameters if you substitute, we will get Kf value as 1.86 Kelvin kg per mole. So you just remember Kf value for water 1.86 Kelvin kg per mole. So you remember this equation. Delta TB is Tf is equal to Kf into m. Delta TB is equal to Kb into m. And what is the value of Kb for water and what is the value of Kf for water? And finally, how to determine molar mass? Molar mass of solute. How to determine molar mass of solute? So determination of molar mass of solute. Determination of molar mass of solute, that is, we have delta Tf is equal to Kf into m. Delta Tf is equal to, we have Kf into m. So delta Tf is equal to Kf into m. Molality. Molality is given by what? Weight of solute by molecular weight of solute into 1000 by weight of solvent. Solvent we indicated with A, solute we indicated with B. So by using this equation, we can determine the molecular mass of solute, molar mass of solute. MB we can determine if delta Tf is given. If delta Tf is given, we can calculate MB by using this expression. Okay, this is about a depression in the freezing point. So finally, if you compare these two equations, delta TB is equal to what we have, Kb into m. Delta Tf is equal to what we have, Kf into m. So for a given concentration in both the cases, if same concentration is given, for example, for a given concentration in both the cases, if you take same concentration, what is getting? Delta TB by delta Tf is equal to Kf by, sorry, Kb by Kf. Okay, sometimes they may give Kb, Kf values, they give elevation in the boiling point, then they may ask you to calculate depression in the freezing point. Or one of these two is given, another one we have to calculate. So for a given concentration, both the cases, if you take same concentration, then delta TB by delta Tf we can write as Kb by Kf. For water it is 0.52, it is 1.86. Okay, so out of 4 colligative properties, that is relative lowering of vapor pressure, elevation in the boiling point, and the depression in the freezing point, 3 are completed. Only one colligative property we have, that is osmotic pressure, that we will discuss in the next class. So in the next class, we will get osmotic pressure and very important concept, Van 't Hoff factor. So that is very important for your exam. Okay, so don't miss the next class. Okay, so Van 't Hoff factor also miss kaakandi. Okay, very important. So ingo manakunna topics endante osmotic pressure okati. Tomorrow we will discuss osmotic pressure, Van 't Hoff factor, and the Nernst distribution. Okay, those 3 topics we will discuss tomorrow. Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. రేపు సేమ్ టైం రేపు ఎప్పుడు 8:30 అన్నారు సార్?
అవును సార్, మీ ఇష్టం సార్, లేట్ అయినా పర్లేదు నాకు. రేపు హాలిడేనే కాబట్టి 9
ఎర్లీగానే స్టార్ట్, మధ్యాహ్నం మళ్ళీ